UK time, and this is a spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. And my name is Saad. I'm the host of the show. With me usually is Gregory. I'm just trying to get hold of him to join the show. So before we do that, I want to just introduce the topic that we're discussing tonight. It is the call for the helper. Call for the helper. And if you have any questions on this topic, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00 44 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number one, .com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. And you can type in any questions or comments there. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail message? The Grail message, in the light of truth, by Abdushin, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with the matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with seven seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic we are discussing tonight is Call for the Helper. And you are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is to go to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one.com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Okay, I can see Gregory is now with us. Welcome, Gregory. How are you, and how is the weather where you are?
One is fine. It's getting cold. It's already dark anyway.
Okay, good. Well, I don't know if it's good, but maybe some people might think it's good. Here in London, it is also the same, dark nowadays, of course, and it is, I will call it cool and a little, tending to, when the sun goes, it is cold. I will say that, yes. So, listeners, yeah, just to remind again, the topic that we're discussing is Call for the Helper. So, Gregory, as you know, I like to look up the meaning of the words in the topic. And the first word there is call. Now, incredibly, I found 7 meanings for this word in the dictionary. I will go through them, and then we can see how relevant they are for our discussion. Call. So it says, first one, to speak in a loud, distinct voice so as to be heard at a distance. And they give the synonym as shout. So, Gregory, and they also give an example for it, call for help, which is very, very, how can I say, relevant to our topic here. So, is that a good meaning there, Gregory, about which is to shout, basically, the meaning of call?
And, well, thanks. That is a bit ambiguous in the sense that when people are singing, so in a party or outside, they shout. They are loudspeakers. Would one call that a call for help?
Right.
Therefore, it's still not it's not precise enough, though it's still usable.
Right. So maybe that's why they put 7 meanings for the
Yeah,
word. So I will continue. Let's just go line by line, and we can see how appropriate or useful they are. So the second meaning for the word call, it says to make a request or demand. How about this one, Gregory?
to make a request seem most appropriate.
Okay. And is demand not right at all, or not?
Demand has the impression that demands um, presents doesn't seem appropriate for a call for a helper.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Normally you need help. You don't demand.
You
Well,
don't demand.
actually, Gregory, just something just came into mind just now. As you know, in Spain, in Valencia, and there has been a very, how can I say, terrible, um, I don't know what word is actually a disaster, natural disaster, maybe, right? Basically, heavy rain fell in very short, a few hours, flooding let's say, a lot of that town or city. Over 200 people have been killed, and it
Yep.
happened very fast. And I think they said it was like 1 year of rain in 8 hours. That was one place. So incredibly, and of course there was a need for help, and there was a call for help, and the people have been saying, "Oh, the Spanish government or the uh, authorities have been very, very slow to come up with help." So they were demanding, you can say, Gregory. It wasn't
Yep.
just a request; it was a demand.
Well, that is true. It was a demand, and a justified demand, but one wouldn't say it's a call. You are making
Mm.
a request, you are demanding that the receiver of the call of a demand, if that receiver is in a position to make demands, that's okay. For one who is unwell in hospital, what demand can they make when they are under treatment, under the knife?
Yes. In fact, Gregory, another thing has just come into my head, or it was there before as well. For example, in Gaza, the Palestinians are suffering quite seriously, and let's say the majority of them are civilians, and they're saying, "Why are we being hit? And why isn't the world coming to their aid?" They're suffering, and so again, it's a request for help, but somehow there's a demand with it as well. So I somehow feel, Gregory, that in some cases, yes, there is request, but there's also demand. The word call may not immediately sound like a demand, but somehow I think when it's a very serious situation, it turns into a demand. Maybe it's not originally meant to as so. It would be request as initially, but somehow when this becomes very serious, people are so desperate that it turns into a demand. I mean, it doesn't. You can't.
That's correct.
So it's
That's
not. It's
very
not.
correct.
How can I say? Not that they can have it just because they demand or request it. It's just that it turns into it. So somehow an expectation. Let me put the word there's an
Correct.
expectation there,
So an expectation.
but it's with a demand in the sense they really mean it. Not purely. Um, yes, if you do it if you like. Not like that. You have to. The demand means you must do it.
The
So there's a
question is that you make a demand at the on whose expense is expected that other people share the same views and we wish to die on their behalf because the scenario, the situation, those inflicting such pain on their neighbors um, do not care. So you make a demand, and yeah,
Mhm.
for those who can support, of course they will. But not everyone is in that position to fulfill that call or fulfill that help.
Exactly. This topic tonight is really, I must say, very big when deep and wide. Um, Lots of subject to look at. So we will continue. Now that we're still looking at the meaning of the word call. So the other one, oh, it's okay. So third one, this is call of an animal to utter a characteristic note or cry. Gregory, I'm not too sure how relevant that is for us tonight, but that's what that one is.
It's more of a request of the animal and when it's in dire need.
Yes, I think it's even the way the animal, because they don't speak, they just cry. They make a noise, and this is a no animal
Are
call.
we sure about that? That they
Okay,
don't speak?
you're right. When I think about it, it could be a meaning. They're hungry, they need
Yeah,
help, That's true. They also need can have help, need have
And
help.
birds, when
That's
they
true.
chip around and dance, they also make so
Yeah,
much noise. And
that's true. But this one is for let's say more concerning the animal. But of course, they also need help. Okay, let's continue. The next one, to speak to or attempt to reach someone by means of a call. I see. That looks like a phone call. It seems. To
yeah,
speak to. Yes. Okay. The next one, to make a demand in card games, as for a particular card or show of hands. Okay, Greg, anything to say on that one? I think it's
these are pointers. We
mm,
sort of get the scenario and the picture, like you
yes,
are painting. They are
yes,
helpful.
yes, and I think because they're specific to a particular type of scenario.
Correct.
So the
Correct.
next one, to give the calls for a square dance. Okay, I never heard of that one before. Yes, to give the calls for a square dance. I think that's. I'm going to leave that out, Gregory. Let's
Mm.
continue. The next one, to make again the meaning of the word call, to make a brief visit. So yeah, how about this one, Gregory?
Sometimes these words are used as adjectives or um, to qualify, just to paint a picture. But
Mm.
the key picture there is more of a request. Um, what you
Yes,
just mentioned is only more of a description of what a call is.
right. Okay, now we'll go to the next keyword, helper. So I know what you're going to say, Gregory, but I will say it anyway. This meaning in the dictionary for the word helper, one that helps. And they've given an example, a relatively unskilled worker who assists a skilled worker, usually by manual labor. What do you say about this one?
But you said one that helps.
Yes.
If you want to describe a helper, you have to use another expression.
Yes.
So, well, that is good. But again,
Mm.
what you find in many of these words is that the context that has not been well established to
Right.
know what maybe a helper is.
Okay. So I'm going to, because of this word help, I had to look that up, of course. So now I found six meanings here. I'm going to try and pick things which are more relevant, let's say. So, okay, this one, to make more pleasant or bearable, improve or relieve. Is that a good one there, Gregory?
That is also very helpful.
Good. Okay, you're using the word helpful. That's nice as well.
Well,
Good.
now you can
Okay,
see
you
what's.
see. All right. Okay, next continue. The other word meaning of, as I said, there's six meanings, but I'll just pick a few from it, and there are even sub meanings, I'm going to say. So, again, another meaning given in the dictionary for help, rescue, save. And they give an example, help us from famine and plague and strife.
Yeah, these are good description of what um, helper portrays.
Right. So we're getting closer now. Next one, uh, meaning of help again, to be of use, benefit. What about this one?
Yes, of course.
Okay, good. Another one, to further the advancement of, promote.
Again, these are good descriptions.
Okay.
Which one
Next
will
one,
you use?
right. I've got lots here, but I will go through each one. To change for the better.
That is nearer than what has been said so far.
Okay. Next one, to refrain from, avoid. Um, I'm not sure how where that fits in, but would you can you see something there, Gregory, to refrain from, avoid?
Not really.
Hmm. I think the context is not given there, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah,
Right. Okay, we will continue. To keep from occurring, prevent.
I'm afraid, what context would that be?
I think when people are into getting into trouble, and it's you know, if there are floods and you want to build a barrier for future floods, because once a flood has happened, obviously you cannot do anything about that one, but for the future maybe you'll build a barrier, so preventing, helping in that way to reduce the future troubles. That's what I'm thinking.
Some some of these things, um, one has to narrow it down to a particular context.
Yes.
Else, it will be so nebulous that you can't really hold on to it.
Something again came into my head. Prevention is better than cure. So if you can prevent something bad, dangerous thing from happening, that is better than looking for the cure. So maybe that's the type of help this particular, um, as I said, this is my own sensing of it, but I don't know for sure what they mean here. Um, but we'll keep going, I think, Gregory. Let's just keep going. Another one. Okay, this isn't. I think the other two are not really relevant, so I will just leave them out. Let me just leave them out. Okay, so that is the meaning for the word help or helper. Okay. So, Gregory, since we have been talking about help, there really that is my real first question, you can say. What is help, really? What is the, let's say, true help? Let's call it true help. What is really true help?
When help at all needs to be considered, or a helper, um, it has to be inclusive, it has to be wholesome. So, whenever assistance is given, which assistance is such that it improves on the state of the receiver. Once it improves on the state of the state of the receiver being improved in accordance with the laws of nature, then that is genuine help. One had to, clothe it that way because there must be an improvement from the initial state. So the initial state may be that may be deplorable, and a helper comes and improves on the state of those who are affected. You also have, even when it is not deplorable, you are in a happy state, the possibility is there that a helper may also come and improve on your current state to a better one, make you happier. That is also help. Help, most of the time, is viewed only from one side, whereas that which is considered is or must be viewed not from the side of the deeds, which are perceptible to the five senses, but also have to be considered from the perspective of one's thoughts, sending good thoughts. So, good deeds and good thoughts in accordance with the will of the Almighty, and also sending one's intuition in the direction of those needing help. So there are three aspects which have been considered. The aspect of the deeds, because this is what is readily perceptible, and we draw our conclusions. Many do not consider even sending good thoughts because they say no one perceives this, which is not true. So we have the deeds, we have the thoughts, and above all, one's intuition, which also provides some form of help in spirit. So, when considered from a spiritual perspective, via one's intuition, from a thought perspective, and also from the perspective of these which are perceptible to the five senses, when these three different categories are considered, then that is help because it improves on the state of those receiving the help, be the help, be the receiver being the human personalities or even the environment.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for the what you have talked about. The how can I say, the modes of help. You know, thoughts, intuition, deeds. As you said, people would not have maybe considered that as help, especially maybe thoughts. Deeds, of course, we are very familiar with it, and intuition, maybe people haven't considered that either. And the type of help really. Um, uh, but before I do that, Greg, I just want to clarify one point. Um, does the is prayer considered to be like a thought, or is it intuition? Just want to understand that because people do pray in times of need or help when they need help. So is that considered to be a thought, the prayer?
Prayer in itself, genuine prayer, must take place within one's intuition, which basically is striving aright to make use of the power streams in nature, in creation, for the right purpose. That is what prayer is.
Hmm.
The verbal forms, it helps to clothe one's motive, but sometimes the verbal presentation in course of prayer, because too many words are used, too many different requests are included, doesn't rise at all. Whereas with a single request intuitively, that is able to rise higher and higher. That in itself, the purity of the prayer is what really counts. But ask yourself, with all the forms that people shout about, is there any purity? Is there any sincerity in all this? These are a complete waste of time. And but yet those who engage in it believe in themselves that they're doing the right thing. How many are able to see the purity of thoughts, if at all? So you may have the scenario where people kneel down and pray or raise up their hands, but deep within them, you now have that their words may sound good to others, but their thoughts are really not there, and their intuition may be completely opposite. Now you ask yourself, what then happens? In the scenario where you have a genuine intuitive perception seeking for help, that rises. That rises because of its purity in accordance with the living laws of creation, and a response is granted not according to the wishes, to the earthly wishes of the person, but granted in accordance with the wisdom which runs creation. So these are very different things. You may have someone praying to have maybe a big house or whatever, and they want help so that money will come in and things like, and yet it doesn't come. In the not fulfilling that request in itself is a help. But more of these things, many need to examine the work in the light of truth to have clarity, such that they won't continue to move around in ignorance.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for that. I really want to go deeper into this. You could say the type of help and the attitude towards the help or request for the help. I really want to explore that much more. But before I do that, I just want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdrushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we are discussing tonight is call for the helper. Call for the helper. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box, a box, which is called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And as I mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, that's the number one.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number one again, space, live stream. That's for the live show, which we broadcast on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can also listen to a recording of this show the next day, again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one again, space, Grail message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is call for the helper. And there's one other place you can listen to us, that is Zeno, that's ZENO.FM /Blessed Radio 1. Again, that's the number one there. Now, Gregory, as we've been saying from the beginning of this show, this help is such a big word. So many meanings, interpretations people will have, and expectations, and really we need to, let's say, get to the proper understanding of that, because one man's expectation or another a woman's expectation and what is the real help that can be received can be two different things. And obviously, if that's the case, then we will surely get confusion and wrong results or unexpected results, you can say, or non-results even. So, and we already talked about prayer, how prayer works. So, but I first want to focus on the type of help, really. So, what I see, Gregory, there's so many types. There's the material, you could call it economic in that, uh, with money, which is, let's say, the most common, probably, people ask or expect. Then there's welfare, health, you can say. Then there's emergency, when we are in trouble. Um, oh, yes, another one, warfare, where people are suffering in war, or something similar like that. Um, then there's even emotional or psychic. People are depressed because of something happen to them. And then the last one I want to put. Another one, Gregory, which you could say also psychic, social, because we are. They say people say, "Oh, we human beings are social animals." In the sense, I know the word "animals" is in quotes. So, we like to communicate, connect, family, friends, work, and so on. So this is another. I don't know if that's necessarily help, but well, people could have difficulty in communicating, so that's a social issue there. And then another one is spiritual. So Gregory, there's such a mass of or variety, I should say, of requirements for help, and I'm wondering, what can I say? Uh, uh, um, Yes, so let me put it. So, what type of help are we discussing for tonight, Gregory? Is it all of these varieties?
It is that help which is of benefit to the human personality. That is what we are focusing on.
Okay. So, is there anything particular that was beneficial? Because you need, for me, like you need to have healthy body. You need to have, in quotes, money. Uh, not for the sake of money, I know, but you need all these things in life. You need your social sort of connection and um, you know, welfare, as I say, emotional, spiritual. So, in a sense, Gregory, you mean all of these varieties are included?
The types you just mentioned is one aspect. When help is mentioned, there is the giver of the help and there is the receiver of this help. The receiver must, in a large way, prepare itself to receive so that it could receive the help which can be offered. Therefore, you will find that help itself, in the strictest sense, is not arbitrary. Help must, in its essence, resonate. within the laws of creation. And that was why at the beginning there was that assistant assistance which improves on the state of the individual in deeds. That means in deeds that which are perceptible using the five senses that man has. And help, which is also provided in thoughts for one who has been striving to solve a problem in his thoughts, meeting another person who proffers a solution. That is of help because the receiver is now compelled to reflect on it. It's not material as such. What has been passed across is not accessible to our hands, but it triggers something in our thoughts. And to some extent, it might also trigger something to our intuition. So if help has to be holistic, then there must be the discussion of intuition, the intuitive help, the aspects of thoughts, the purity of thoughts, and also that which is perceptible. Even the so-called money is perceptible. Our state of health is also, these are perceptible using our five senses. For it to be holistic, these three aspects must be considered very carefully. For you have scenarios where one is proffering help to another in deeds, but at the same time, that is only used just to gain acceptance in society or to be looked upon in society as somebody who's quite helpful. But deep within that person, it doesn't resonate with that. So these are scenarios which must be considered rather than just look at the gross material. That means in what one sees in deeds. There are many charitable persons all over the place, but are they offering these deeds in all genuineness, or are they seeking fame? These are the questions which each personality must ask themselves.
Thanks, Gregory, for this answer and picture that you're painting now. I'm seeing it that is, you could say, from a global point of view uh, or perspective, that the, it should be holistic, as you say, not helping only, let's say, in one aspect, and before we're talking about maybe materially. No, it should help in every way, you can say, emotionally, psychically, and you're looking for, let's say you have a problem like you mentioned and looking for a solution, uh, and then somebody, you share it, and then somebody could come and give you a prompt or even give you the answer. But I think what I'm seeing, Gregory, is everything is a two-way process. You have to, the attitude, like you say, must be there of the person who's requesting or receiving, and then there's a giver coming with it. So, and so it's not one, you just ask and so it will be given, as if it's an automatic machine that just you just say something and something happens automatically. No, there has to be these conditions uh, for this process to give the help, let's say the right help, because Yeah, you can ask for something, but the person might give you something wrong or not helpful. So there's so many points or aspects to look at, and I want to investigate that as well, Gregory. Um, Now, one other thing I'm thinking, Gregory. So you mentioned there's some helper that provides an answer or a solution, uh, and then the first thing when you think of that, you think, well, the helper must be more, let's say, qualified than me. If I, let's say, or has more experience, or become maybe they're a master in that field, and so they must. That's why they can give this answer. While I'm the one needing the answer. So. Because the topic tonight is call for the helper, and what we mean is the right helper, you know not just any helper. So if it's the right helper, then there must be something that helper has. uh, that's why they're able to give the answer or give the right help. So what are my question now is, Gregory, um, what should how can we assess the helper to know that they're going to give the sort of right help? Is there, yeah, are this, should there be like an expert? Should there be, sorry to use such a word like superhuman, because when we say prayer, we're calling on the Almighty. So I'm just wondering, when you request, come across somebody who claims he can help you, a helper comes, you come across a helper, how do you assess them that they are capable of giving the right help?
It has been stressed again and again by their works. People reveal whom they are. By their works only mean not only the works which are perceptible to one's five senses, but also the effects of one's thoughts on the environment, on the way the human personality implements his activities in deeds, and above all, how one's intuition have an impact on one's thoughts. These are three different categories which are connected. Therefore, the one seeking help, the environment or the inner well being of the personality counts a lot. For the helper may proffer something to the one needing help, yet the one needing help does not even have an idea of what it needs. Most of the help which is mentioned nowadays are only material help. All right, it affects one's health, it affects one's financial situation. Basically, when many are well off financially and their bodies are well, are still functioning all right, many just dismiss only when something brings them down. Then they will start reflecting, oh, one needs help. So it is the one seeking help that must be prepared for or must be open to the help that may be proffered to it by another. At the same time, it is best not to expect from another that which the other person has not yet got. Because it will be asking, you're making demands on another, which demands are not justifiable because the one seeking help has a wrong impression in thinking that this person or that person must help me. Only that which is done voluntarily is genuine.
Thanks, Gregory, again for that answer you've given. Um, like what I hear from what you say is everything is a two-way process. We must, you know, because you cannot just say, oh, this is a good person who is able to help, and then you just rely on what they say. You yourself must assess things. So at every moment, we say every time when we have end of the show, when we read from the forward of the Grail message, it says weigh and examine, weigh and examine. So each moment we are dealing with something, it needs to be weighed and examined. So you can't just, oh, this is an expert, he knows what he's doing. So yeah, but the expert himself doesn't know what he's doing until he checks, weighs and examine. And if you just, but sometimes he may make a mistake in his weighing, examining, assuming something which is not actually correct. And then when let's say doctor, I'm thinking of a doctor, for example, they're making assessment about what is your illness, and you could say, I don't want to say they're guessing, but they're sort of determining, oh, this the one or that the one, and they will, by going in that process, they might come up with something not correct at the beginning, and only when you intervene or correct them on that which is not the case, then you can you know so direct them also. They can be directed also to get to the right place. So what I'm seeing is this is always when you mentioned the word holistic doesn't just mean covering all fields of life. It also means how you interact, but two parties or more than two parties, how they're interacting. So this is really important. um Now, um, I'm just trying to understand, Gregory, because we're talking about holistic things, but not everybody knows everything, Gregory. So, that's why they have, you could say, experts, let's say doctors, um, scientists, in whatever different things that, sports, music, all the variety of the fields of life and work of life that we have. So we have people who are, you can say, experts in each of these things, but they don't know everything. Um, so what I was thinking, Gregory, what about principles of life, which we, let's say, get from the religious or spiritual teachings, which give us even the moral code and so on. You can do this, you shouldn't do that, and sometimes there might be a clash where um, an expert might uh, suggest an approach which you may not agree with in terms of your, I was going to use the word belief, from according to your, let's say, moral uh, understanding or views. So when it comes to this holistic assessment, if I can say, or practice, Gregory, um, uh, what do I want to say there? Should one, um, trust these experts, even if you have some, I don't know if the word is misgiving or not, or where you don't agree maybe with some of their process. So when you have this sort of thing, or they bring something new to you and you're not sure about the process they are using, well, how do we assess that, Gregory? Because something that you don't know.
There is always a challenge in considering that others, because they have trained, they have had some special education in a particular way, therefore they must have all the answers. Such assumptions are baseless because in their training, they have acquired some knowledge, which knowledge is limited to their area of specialization. To demand from them more than what they themselves can give, that will not be right. Just as they themselves cannot demand from you more than what you yourself are capable of giving. In all cases, you find that to have a holistic attitude, that one for all and all for one, is always present. It is one for all and all for one that ensures that whoever has received of the blessings is able to make use of it and pass it on. That is how music comes about. That is how improvement comes about. But that does not mean that one will start making demands on those who have had a gift and in their activities are able to be of assistance to others. That does not mean one should ask more than what they are capable of giving because they are striving every day to understand more. The question is always, how do we perceive those who are genuine? Actually, it's not supposed to be a question. Why? Because if we ourselves strive after genuineness, after purity, then in all certainty, that which is good, that which is pure, will be attracted by us. And before long, we ourselves will have a good idea on how to make our judgment, just as we would not want others to judge us in our activities because we know of our limitations. We must extend that to others. So basically, it is the human personality that must improve its conditions of glowing, its condition in accordance with the laws of nature, such that clarity will dawn on it in its activities. With that, one will find gradually, maybe, that only that which is good will approach us because we have cultivated the environment, not only the physical environment around us, but also the environment of our thoughts, and above all, the environment of our spirit through our intuitions. Therefore, many of the challenges, many of the questions that assail us again and again will become clear, they will be sorted, they will be solved. So we ourselves must be the change which we demand in others. Only in such a way are we able to make progress.
Thanks very much for that answer there, Gregory. There's more to discuss, but before I do that, I just want to let the listeners know this is Bless Radio, and it's a Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abtrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we are discussing tonight is call for the helper. Call for the helper. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And as I've said, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, that's the number one.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one again, space live stream. That is for our live show, which is Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can also listen to a recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one again, space Grail message, space the topic of the show. This one, tonight's show, is Call for the Helper. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number one again. Now, Gregory, we're talking about call for the help, and then we talked about what type of help and our attitude in regards to requesting help. And I wanted to go on the spiritual aspect now. As we know, there are many religions or teachings out there, and yes, a lot of things are in common, and then there's things which are not in common, and that leads to questions, or people might have life questions anyway, and they want some answers to these questions. And in these teachings, answers are given, but somehow you can say maybe they're not sufficient, or there's they're not, or even when you look at some other teachings, you get some conflict in looking at this, getting answers. And then one wonders what to do here, because if you're depending only on this teaching, then you won't get very far because you don't know which is true, which is not true. It's virtually unless something is very clearly visible, you wouldn't really be able to know because it's like almost you have to trust one is true or not true. So we have this issue, um, and and or it could be something, Gregory, which may not be in these teachings, and you need an answer to that. So that's another point there. So I'm wondering, um, is there where something, Gregory, apart from, let's say, prayer, to have an answer? Um, you know, um, because we've said before there needs to be you need to know, or let's say there's a framework or context, and the context we are aware is, well, we live on this earth. That's one context. And then we have a question, okay, like we did last week, near-death experience. That's what the topic was last week. And then people have had near-death experience. So they have had some idea, okay, that there's something after death. And so what do I want to ask on this point? Yes, Gregory, I know it's a call for the helper. Is the helper eventually, Gregory, only the Almighty Creator, or God, that really we can have answer to our questions? Um, or is there some person we can approach? Because we're calling it call for the helper. So who is the helper? Let's try to determine that. And of course, that means it's not us by default. So it means it's someone else. So who is this helper, Gregory?
When faced with such questions, one should ask, there must be the honesty from the questioner. There are many who are blind and they require a dog to see to help them from one place to the other. Is that dog a person? No, it's an animal. So it means the helper doesn't necessarily have to be a human being. There are times in health the individual is unwell, and along the line there are different types of food that it needs to take or drugs. These are helping foods and helping drugs. These are products which have arisen from nature. So the help, depending on the type of help which is sought, that help may not, in quotes, come from a human personality. What is stressed here is that when many seek help, whatever direction they are reflecting on, they must make room that that help will approach, or that help will be rendered not as they themselves have already had fixed structure, fixed ideas. And that has always been the problem. In nature, through which the human personality in flesh and blood came, it was help to the inner core of man, which is of spirit, to be able to incarnate here on earth, to experience, to come to recognition, recognition through the cognitive objects which abound within himself or out of himself or herself. That is one aspect. It is also help that made it possible that there are laws in creation, in nature, which laws have been woven from its primordial beginning, such that that which the human personality may need for all its existence, that provision has already been made. The challenge has always been how to proceed to recognize aright that which is of real help, not imagined help, for any human personality that through its striving is such that it follows that principle that whoever has received of the blessings must make use of it and pass it on, just like musicians do, or just like the artists do. And also know that it is one for all and all for one. Such a person will proceed with confidence because again and again it has weighed with its intuition, with its thoughts, and the deeds are perceptible. Therefore, it will not ask for that which it does not need. Many who ask for money, they should ask themselves, which currency? Are there currencies which have been printed like you do on it outside of this earth? These are the questions they must ask themselves. However, because many have built solid walls around themselves, they are unable to receive the fresh air that comes from the thoughts of others. The ramparts they have built around themselves are so rigid that they are unable to examine other things. There must be the investigation of weighing in accordance the laws of creation, of examining in accordance with the laws of creation. Only in a step-by-step manner, in that way, will one build up the confidence. And with the build of confidence, the personality now proceeds courageously because the steps are there. It will now know that it is no need to request or ask for that which is not necessary. It will also know how to make requests for that which will be of support to the whole structure because it will be of benefit. The question of what should we do such that we're able to judge whether the person who has approached us is a good helper or not, such questions will not arise. Again and again, whoever desires for that which is good must he himself or herself strive after that which is good in accordance with the will of the Almighty. Many run to religions. Of course, religions, they are helpful based on the extent of their understanding. If, however, the structures which have been woven by many a religion, which structures are not solid enough, then the likelihood is there is that when challenged, such structures will crumble because these structures do not resonate with the laws of creation. Each person must strive after that which it is able to grasp. So it is not to say, oh, I was born into this religion. That is only a starting point. That which you have been born into, you have to examine it, you have to earn it aright. And if in your questioning you now find out that the precepts of these teachings cannot withstand the facts which creation has produced or which nature has produced, then calmly and surely they should be put aside. So it's not a question of, oh, I was born into this religion and therefore it must be right. No, each individual that has attained maturity as a human personality must weigh and examine. Not doing that presents the case of personal indolence. So it becomes very clear. One cannot leave the earth and expect to proceed aright with wrong impressions. The question one must keep asking, why do people even bother to find out whether there's life after death? If they are talking about life, then that life must have preceded before they were born. That they do not wish to consider that already is a chip on their shoulders. For were they to consider that there must have been some pre-existence before they incarnated on earth, then that one will be a primer. Then they'll be forced to reflect, where was I before I incarnated? Then each moment here on earth becomes very important. For they will then experience in such a way as to improve on their inner condition, on their inner attitude, on their intuitions, on their thoughts, which we then percolate on their deeds. Then the questions of where would I go when I leave here becomes very clear to them because they themselves have fought the good fight. The good fight, not with others, but with themselves. The ignorance which have prevented them from clarity vanishes. Then that which they have examined, which they have believed, the motive behind the belief becomes clear. Then beliefs becomes conviction.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for this picture you have painted for us, where belief becomes conviction. So again, there's a process there. Um, where which is, let's say, our efforts, if they're genuine, then they will be rewarded with let's say their answer, the true answers. Um, so um, what I wanted to look at now, Gregory, there's let's say spiritual. I don't know if we call it exercises, or let's call it exercises. People do meditation, yoga, even they might attempt to have a vegetarian diet or vegan diet. So all of these things that people are trying to improve themselves, because we are saying the call for the help of people want to improve themselves, have a healthy body, mind, and spirit. Because if these things are not working, at optimal levels, then of course we are not going to be able to, be active with our minds and so on. So I was wondering, Gregory, this exercises, I'm using the word exercises, meditation, yoga, um, I will say vegetable diet, but let's call it healthy diet. So people are trying to improve themselves in these ways. Um, is there some set, can I say, routine or exercise that is like a recommended for us, um, to make us, make us at a very, to make us, use our abilities in the best way, um, or, or is that not necessary?
There is the talk of spiritual exercises. In all actuality, spiritual exercises means spiritual activities. That in itself is the exercise, which manifests only through one's intuitions. Therein lies spiritual exercises. Then, if one's intuitions, the spiritual exercises, have a strong impact on one's thoughts, and these thoughts are translated into that which is physical, in which they are recognizable through the five senses, then those spiritual exercises, which are the intuitive perception, having a strong impact on one's thoughts, and one's thoughts having a strong impact on one's deeds, that is the right way to go. What you have with yoga, whatever they care to call it, is trying to do things in the other way around, in which intellectually one's deeds are so calculated. The calculation is such that externally it might look good. Internally, who sees the thoughts of these who practice these things? A lot of this practice is highly earthly. The inner discipline is not yet there. But should one needs to recognize that which is right in these matters, then one must observe the little things which the individual does in his or her life. Because it's in the little things that reveal the inner worth of the individual. So you have all these practices where some will decide to fast until their body becomes so weakened because the radiation of the body, of the blood, does not harmonize with the radiations of the soul. And when you get into that scenario, things become one-sided. And one-sidedness does not allow for a balance, does not allow for harmony. There will be precipitations, there will be exaggerations. So most of these exercises, strictly speaking, from a spiritual point of view, they can only be right if the activities of the spirit, these activities which represent one's intuitions, harmonizes with one's thoughts, and one's thoughts harmonizes with one's deed. Then and only then will it be right. Else, it will be one-sided.
Thanks for that, Gregory. I think what you're pointing to, there has to be a balance. When we do these exercises, and if it's one-sided or one thing is too dominant, then that is not balance. So, and I know we started earlier saying holistic. So, yes, you can do something like fasting, for example, but only short time. You can't fast. Obviously, if you fast for months, you'll be dead. So that's not going to work. So, but I know I was joking there. But basically, we should be aware of this. What are the benefits, as we are saying, of doing one exercise or another exercise. And yes, we need everything. We need to breathe. We need to eat or drink. We need to do walking around, be active. So all these things are necessary, and but it doesn't mean you have to specially, let's say, focus on one thing, like constantly. So yes, so thank you for that. I want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdrushi. If you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is call for the helper. Call for the helper. If you have any questions uh, or comments on this topic, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. And you can, as I say, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And then there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, the number one.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And as I mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number one.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1 space live stream. That is for our live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can listen to a recording of this show also on YouTube. That's on the next day. So go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one again, space Grail message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is call for the helper. And of course, you can listen to our other previous recordings of other shows, past shows, again on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM / Bless Radio 1. Now, Gregory, are there some situations which are which where we cannot have any help? It's like you're beyond help. You know, sometimes you get, especially like medical things, where they amputate your leg because they can't save the leg. You know, and then you now have to be given sort of whatever, let's say, tools. I can't think of the right word. Some aids, you know, for you to be able to walk around, or you know, and whatever aids. I really can't think of the right word right now. So things that can, prosthetic leg they can make, isn't it? And things like that. So I want to ask Gregory, are there some scenarios where there's not really any help? You know, the help is too late to be given.
Is the provision of, in the case of the scenario you just painted, is the provision of prosthetic leg not help in itself?
For sure, but the original leg is no more usable. So I guess, you know, what you point when I think about what you say, you know, the way you view help, like we were saying earlier, you may not think, oh, they didn't save my leg, so you say, oh, that wasn't a really help. But then they did something else, so that is a help. Uh, so I guess, Gregory, again, what you're pointing to is we should look at a help in a very broad way.
That is correct,
Mm.
because you will find that sometimes before some of these things precipitate into activities which are perceptible using the five senses, there would have been gentle prompting or warnings, but these are ignored. Therefore, you will find that each moment in a person's life on earth is very important. The personality must use each moment as it proceeds to redeem itself through activities within himself and strive to be of help, not only to himself, but also to others. If it is done genuinely, many a thing that would have chopped off his head may only approach and remove his cap. So the mechanism, the processes in nature, in creation, are dynamic. And it is the human personality within his activities in deeds, in thoughts, and in intuition that provide the opportunity for processes, for events to include them in or to exclude them. So you will find that in many cases, that which would have struck you badly, in which you would have regretted very deeply, but because in your thoughts or in some of your strivings, you yourself have come to a certain recognition and have been helpful to many others. In such a scenario, the individual has built a buffer around himself such that only thoughts, only events of a like nature will approach. Should any dense or adverse effect approach, it may approach but may brush off within his aura. So he is not struck adversely. These events, these processes, again and again, are dynamic. Many of that which is stressed here, many of these one can come to personal conviction, not beliefs, through personal examinations, which examinations have been made manifests in this work. So, this work, in the light of truth, the Grail message, is a help of spiritual nature. But that help must be examined, must be weighed. Only through activities can help come to the individual. Only through activities through which the human personality goes forward in confidence in his examination or a higher examination, in weighing and examining, and in this process, there will be reciprocal activities which the individual will use as tools, as experiences, and come to a firm conviction that conviction, because it registers not only in deeds which are perceptible to the five senses, but also it registers in his thoughts or in her thoughts, and above all in one's intuition. These are the experiences which the individual will take along when it has dropped the physical body. In that case, it need not, there will be no need for fear because it has built that structure within itself, which is in accordance with the will of the Almighty that presented this help in creation for the human personality to use. Again and again, before long, the human personality will now learn to go forwards and upwards in confidence, then courageously. The challenge has always been that the individual holds back because it has doubts. Of course, you will have doubts if you do not examine. Of course, you will have doubts if you do not weigh. But once you start weighing and examining in all that you do, before long, all the dogma that has been thrown before you will melt like snowman before the sun.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. While you were talking, I received a question from a listener, which I'd like to read to you. One moment, I'll go there. So they say, does the law of reciprocal action determine whether or not a call for a helper is answered? Thank you very much. So I just repeat it. Does the law of reciprocal action determine whether or not a call for a helper is answered?
Yes, that law of reciprocal activity does. However, the call for the helper, is it a call in the material sense? Is it a call or a request, say, in material sense, or a request in thoughts, or a request in spirit? These are these different categories which have to be examined. For a request in spirit is such that first and foremost, it will bring in reciprocity spiritual values. A request in thoughts will bring thoughtful values. A request in deeds must, of course, bring about deeds which are perceptible in the gross material. However, there is a big problem. That which is spiritual may not, or in most cases, will not resonate with one's thoughts, just as one's thoughts may not resonate with one's deeds. Because many a time, your thoughts are one way and your deeds are the other way. Hypocrisy or cunning. Now, when there are requests for material, or request in thoughts for a problem, or request spiritually, it remains a request. How this request is fulfilled, that's request. All the mechanism must also be in accordance with the will of the Almighty, one of which one refers to that of reciprocal activity. One may now consider the scenario where that which has been requested for now gradually arrives. The question you must ask, has the individual prepared itself for the arrival? That's another story. Because the individual haven't made a request, that request will only be meaningful to it when it's able to resonate with the individual. Why? Because within a few moments, that individual would have changed and be considering other things. So the results comes back and is unable to have an impact on the individual. Yet the individual may think that he's on the right path. There was a particular scenario where many people were crying out for rain. And for a long time, maybe a few years, the rains didn't come. And people made pleas and pleas for rain. But when the rains came, because they were not prepared to receive the rain, erosion came and swept them all away. But they had forgotten that it was they who were asking for help, for rain. So the individual, the state of that individual must be considered. So it's not sufficient to say I have asked for it, and it must come the way I myself think it should come. For the human personality is like a grain, an insignificant grain in creation. Therefore, it cannot make demands. It can only make a request. And at the same time, in humility, it must prepare itself. And that is where the biggest challenge is. That inner preparedness, that inner preparation, to be able to recognize when the help arrives. For when the help arrives, because of the wrong inner attitude, that help is not considered or it is boycotted. Alertness is key. Vigilance in purity. Vigilance steeped in purity. In humility, that is what prepares for the reception of the help which the human personality need in all circumstances.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer, and I hope the listener uh, was happy to hear that. I've got another listener sent a question which I didn't notice until now, a while ago. Um, he's, I think this is a comment rather than a question, but I'll read it out. He says, I was listening to American TV pastors who grant prayers of prosperity if people give money for the prayer. The people are longing for a better life or to free themselves from illness. These pastors make a huge amount of money from people's insecurities. Many of these preachers are multimillionaires using the name of the Almighty to gain earthly wealth. I think this is just a comment. Sorry, I don't mean just a comment. It is a comment rather than a question. Um, I don't know, Gregory, do you want to say anything on that?
By their works, they reveal whom they are.
Right, exactly. So, in a way, we always find out things, we don't need to like say something directly about these things because the people reveal themselves, anyone, they reveal themselves by their actions. So, yes. So, thank you for that. Now, let me see if I've got one more question because the show is coming to the end now. Gregory, so far we've been talking, let's say, a receiver and a giver with regards to help. And I was wondering, which is sort of, it comes across as maybe two individuals or, let's say, between the Almighty and the person. But then we know we don't live by ourselves. There's groups of us, families or whatever groups we are in. So I'm just thinking, what I want to really ask in a way, Gregory, they say one man's food is another man's poison. So the same help, Gregory, can it apply to a group? You give it to the whole group, or should it be individual? Um, or is it by a mixture of that? So I'm just wondering, yeah, are we meant to solve our own problem, Gregory, each one individually, or can there be a mass help? Uh, and I know sometimes it's like silly because some people are in the same scenario. Let's say this trouble in the Valencia, in Spain, with a big rainstorm, or I'm not sure what other word to use for it, and there's a mass of people, in a similar issue there. So um, how should the help be? Should it be each person have to help themselves individually, or can it be in a group?
In any community life, there is the one for all and all for one. That is why you have a community. However, the one for all and all for one, the individual experience these things differently. And in their experience, they are able to support other people. So that which is referred to as help, which help changes the states of the individual in spirit, in thoughts, and in um, perceptible activities using five senses. How these affect the individual depends on the individual states, how they open themselves. What is clear is that not all people are in the same state. They may be in the same state, say in deeds, but in their thoughts, it's not the same. In their intuitions, they're not the same. But they can all pull together to support one another, just like in any society.
Thank you, Gregory. for that. I just want to say, listeners, we've come to the end of the show tonight. And as usual, I like to read something from the Grail message to end the show. Now, the topic we chose tonight was Call for the Helper. And in fact, there's a lecture in the Grail message which is titled The Call for the Helper. So I thought I would like to read a section of that, which is actually the, let's say, first page or two, uh, which will give a, let's say, nice picture, uh, how people see this need for the helper or the call they have, their call for the helper. So again, I just repeat this lecture I'm going to read now, or section I'm going to read from the lecture titled The Call for the Helper. Just let us look more closely at all those people who today, with special eagerness, are seeking a spiritual helper. Those who inwardly uplifted are awaiting him. In their opinion, they themselves are already thoroughly prepared spiritually to recognize him and to hear his word. On calm observation, we notice a great many factions. Christ's mission, for instance, affected so many people in a strange way. They formed a false picture of it. As usual, this was due to their wrong self assessment, their presumption. Instead of the former veneration and the preservation of a natural gulf and sharp demarcation towards their God, there has arisen on the one hand a plaintive begging which always wants only to receive, but on no account to contribute anything itself. They have certainly accepted the pray, but refused to acknowledge that this was coupled with and work. Work on yourself. Again, on the other hand, people imagine that they are so self reliant, so independent, that they can do everything themselves, and with a little effort, even become divine. There are also many people who only demand and expect God to run after them, inasmuch as He had already once sent His Son. He proved thereby how greatly concerned He is that mankind should draw near to Him, indeed, that He probably even needs them. Wherever one turns, there is nothing but presumption to be found in all things, no humility. True self assessment is lacking. In order really to be a human being and begin his ascent as such, it is first of all necessary for man to descend from his artificial height. Today, spiritually puffed up, he is sitting in a tree at the foot of a mountain, instead of standing with both feet firmly and securely on the ground. Thus, unless he comes down or falls from the tree, he will obviously never be able to climb the mountain. Meanwhile, however, all those who went their way calmly and sensibly on the ground beneath his tree, and upon whom he looked down so haughtily, have probably arrived at the summit. But events will come to his aid, for in the very near future the tree will fall. When he is so roughly shaken down from his precarious perch, perhaps man will then once more come to his senses. But for him it will then be high time, and he has not a single hour left to waste. Many now think that life can continue in the old way as it has done for thousands of years. Stretched out comfortably in their armchairs, they are awaiting a strong helper. But how they depict this helper, it is really pathetic. In the first place, they expect, or just to be quite correct, demand, that he should prepare the way upward to the light for each individual. He must exert himself to build bridges to the path of truth for the adherents of every religious faith. He must make it so easy and intelligible that everyone can understand it without effort. His words must be so chosen that their rightness will immediately convince one and all. As soon as a man must exert himself and think for himself, then the helper is not a proper helper. For if he is called to lead and to show the right way through his word, he must then naturally also exert himself for men. It is his duty to convince men, to awaken them. After all, Christ also gave his life. Those who think in this way today, and there are many who do so, need not begin to trouble themselves, for they are like the foolish virgins. They face the too late. The helper will surely not awaken them, but will let them sleep quietly on until the gate is closed, and they can find no entrance into the light, because they cannot free themselves in time from the sphere of matter for which the word of the helper showed them the way. I will stop there. Dear listeners, that was a reading from the lecture from the Grail message. The lecture is called The Call for the Helper. And if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Dear listeners, same from me. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Have a great week.